John Solleder, first, thank you for coming into the zone of my awareness with your email. Because I didn't know about you, but then I started researching you, and they say that success leaves traces, and oh my gosh, there were a lot of traces when I looked you up. You have 42 years of experience in multi-level marketing, is that correct? And you've built several businesses. You have a successful podcast. So I was trying to figure out the flow of this interview, and believe me, it wasn't easy. So I was thinking, why don't we just talk and see where it goes? So John, welcome once again. So I want to have your thoughts and your advice for maybe young people today, or people in midlife today who do not have any reliable income or savings. What would you suggest? How to start? What to do? What would you do?
Well, my suggestion to people is, number one, find something you're passionate about. Like you mentioned, insurance, okay? Insurance is a great industry. You help people, life insurance in particular, for example. You help people, you help families. When somebody dies and there's insurance, the family can mourn. They don't have to worry so much about how do we bury grandpa, you know what I mean? If you've got life insurance, for example. So it's a great industry. It's an industry that helps a lot of people. The direct selling industry that I've been, part of off and on for 42 years, same thing. Find something that you like. If you like skincare, find a good skincare company. There's a number of them out there. If you like nutrition, find a nutrition company that you're passionate about their product. My litmus test is, if I wouldn't own it, I can't sell it. Okay?
Yeah.
And I think that's what my advice to most people is. If you find a product that you like, and you have the ability to engage with whatever that particular brand is, to sell that brand or that type of product, that's what you need to do. You need to be passionate about it, because money is not a good enough motivator.
Do you think it's smart or not smart to have business with your family member? Because Dave Ramsey, for instance, has a great show, and his daughter is part of it. But many times, like often enough, it doesn't go well. What are your thoughts?
Oh boy, that's a hard question. Depends on the family member, quite honestly. I have family members that I wouldn't do business with personally. Mm-hmm. And I have other family members that I would. It would depend on the business and, once again, their passion for it.
So let's zoom into some of those terms that we just used: multi-level marketing, affiliate marketing. Could you explain to somebody who doesn't know much or hardly anything about it what those things are?
Sure. Multi-level marketing is basically marketing where you involve a lot of other people selling the same brand that you sell. Okay, so let's just take an example, right? Let's just say that you had a skincare product, okay? And you like that skincare product. And you shared that skincare product with 10 of your girlfriends. And you said, look, I'm using this skincare, it's great, look, my skin looks great. Would you like to use it? Yeah. Well, would you also like to sell it? Yeah. Well, if those women got involved, let's say those 10 women decided that they wanted to sell it, you would get an override on what they sell. So let's just say that as a group, they sold $10,000 of product in a month. You'd normally make about 5 to 7% on what they sold. Okay. So you'd make $500 to $700 for having introduced them to whatever that particular company is that you were repping that brand with. Okay. Now, what would they make? Now, they didn't do it to help you. They listened to you and said, hey, this is good advice. Yeah, it looks like good stuff. I want to use it, and I also want to sell it. They would make money on either the same thing where they introduced other people and they got an override. Okay. An override. Think of an override like when you write a book, when you do an album. Think of any great artist, Frank Sinatra, Bruce Springsteen, Prince, any of them, right? Even though 2 of those 3 guys are dead, their families still get an override on what they produced years ago, right? They sang songs and there's albums out there, and they get a royalty override that goes to their family. It's the same thing. but it's for normal people like us that aren't famous or can't sing well. Maybe you can sing well,
Yeah.
but okay, it's the same concept that we can participate in a business that we build, and we're going to get an override. Now, there's also a retail component where they can create retail customers, and normally they'll make somewhere between 30 to 40% profit on somebody who just says, I don't want to be a distributor, I don't want to sell this stuff, I just want to use it. Okay, so let's say they sold that person $100 of product, they got a 40% discount, so they paid 60, the customer paid 100. That difference, that $40 difference or 40%, would be retail profit, okay, that they would earn. Okay, so that's another form of income. Now that's on the multi-level end of business. The affiliate end of business is something that started with Amazon pretty much a number of years ago, right? You used to get an email and it said on the bottom, you know, go here to buy your books at Amazon. If you clicked on that person's email, they had a little code, and you went over and you bought a book, or you bought eventually, you know, all sorts of things from Amazon. They got a little bit of what's called an affiliate commission, where Amazon sent them a couple of dollars because they encouraged you to buy on Amazon, and Amazon said, thank you very much for getting John to my Amazon store. And, you know, I sold some stuff, and I'm going to send John a check because he got that person there. Okay. That is now something that's become very popular, especially with people in that group that your son and my son are in, that 18 to 35 group. A lot of them don't necessarily want to be in multi-level marketing as distributors for whatever reason, but they love affiliate marketing. So they may even join a network marketing company, they may join a multi-level marketing company, they may join in Amazon, they may join some other type of entity that markets where they say, hey, I've got Facebook friends, I've got TikTok friends, I've got Instagram friends, and I'm going to promote whatever it happens to be to that group of people. And then when anybody from that group of people says, you know what, John says I ought to try, his immune product, I'm going to click here and I'm going to buy it. Okay, that would be an affiliate sale. That's something that's become very, very popular as well. And we teach people how to do that as well, by the way. That's one of our businesses, is we help people with affiliate marketing.
What I also noticed were there's also this shady side of multi-level marketing, which is actually illegal. Could you talk about that? What we can see on TikTok or online generally?
Well, a legitimate multi-level marketing company has a legitimate product, for one thing. Secondly, it has a price point that is fair. Okay, price point being that it doesn't have some crazy price that nobody's ever going to pay for a comparable non-multi-level product, for example. Okay. Thirdly, that it has a point in the marketing plan, okay, that ends. It's not. It doesn't pay you to infinity or some crazy thing where if you're the first person in, you've got an advantage over the person who gets in a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now. Okay, It's got to be a level playing field for everyone that gets involved. The compensation has to be the same. Those are some of the legitimate tests, and a legitimate company has retail sales.
But I'm really curious about how you got to your own product and how you built your businesses. Could you share some of that, how that happened?
Well, like I said, 1983 was a thing where it just kind of happened. It was an accident.
Okay.
But then I said, you know what I saw was my self-development could be involved with my business, that I wanted to develop as a person and take some of the skills that I had and learn more. But I needed businesses to test them with. In other words, when I did sales letters, for example, I needed something to sell. Okay, great. I got this idea, but now I need something to sell to see if anybody else thinks it's a good idea. So that's kind of how it evolved.
Oh, definitely, yeah. So I previously I had an impression that you also own some product line. Is that correct, or you?
I have. I've developed different product lines, mostly for other people, but I always maintain a percentage of them. And some of them are sold on Amazon. We've developed. Well, helped to develop. I'm not a developer myself, but sometimes I have product ideas. Products, for example, like a tea product, for example, we helped to develop for one one company. In the powerlifting world, we helped to develop a pre-workout drink that's marketed online by a large powerlifting device company here in Dallas, for example, as two examples, and there's others, but we've developed a lot of products over the years.
What do you think, what helped you? Those people hadn't probably heard about you, and you just wrote a letter and started talking with them?
Well, yeah, well, I figured I had to start somewhere. Okay, so my first list that we bought was to people that had been in the multi-level marketing field. You could buy lists of people that had been in different companies. Okay, so that's kind of where we started with that particular list. And then it just kind of morphed from there. And then we started buying lists of doctors and chiropractors and all sorts of things. And we really built the business that way the first couple of years. And then my business grew to the point where I had been in another company in Canada that I was still in, even when I was down here running this other company on a corporate end. And I had some people in that company that had been unhappy with that prior company's management. So they wound up joining me, and before I knew it, I was the top distributor, and all that kind of stuff, and making plenty of money. And then I stopped doing the mailings, honestly, because I got too busy doing meetings. I started to do meetings all over the United States and Canada, and then eventually Mexico and all over the place. So the businesses change and evolve, and sometimes what you do in them changes and evolves,
And you wrote to me and saying that you have mentored, maybe that's what you meant, around 5,000 people, and that you would share some of those stories. Could you share maybe a couple of stories that of success that you remember?
Yeah. Well, okay, let me share a couple of them. First one, let me share the story of a guy named Piero. Piero was from Italy originally. I met him, and he had gone through a financial challenge. He had owned some businesses in Toronto, Canada, and he had gone through some financial challenges. And I was going to be doing a meeting in Montreal, and we had talked on the phone. And by the way, how did I meet this guy? There was a guy who drove a coffee truck, the coffee trucks that come to job sites, and our company in Canada at that time was new. Okay, so I used to go out to buy my coffee off of this coffee truck because there was none in the office that we were in. And I said to this young guy who was 19 years old at the time, I said, "Hey, Ralph, do you know anybody who you think might be interested in my products?" And he goes, yeah, my mom's got a friend. So next day he comes back, he gives me this guy Piero's phone number. I call him up. Piero was a few years older, about 10 years older than me. And I said, look, I'm flying to Montreal. And he lived in Toronto also, this guy. But I was flying to Montreal the next day for a meeting. I said, look, if you want to meet, I'm going to be in Montreal. I'll meet you at Dunn's. Dunn's is a famous restaurant on St. Catherine Street in Montreal. I said, I'll meet you there. I'll buy you dinner. We met at 7 o'clock. He brought his wife with him. And we spent till 2 o'clock in the morning talking about marketing strategy. And we figured out that even though he was down financially, he had a beautiful Porsche. So I said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take your car and we're going to turn it into an asset. So we created a big decal. It was like magnetized that said, call me and I'll show you how to drive one of these. And his phone number. And we put it on his car a couple of weeks after we met. And that started to lead generate a lot of people. And he wound up becoming my top distributor with that particular company in Canada. We wound up opening up markets all over the world together out of one city, out of Toronto, Canada. That's one of my success stories. Okay, one of the people that he brought was an Indian immigrant to Canada. Okay, a guy named Tom Thomas. Okay, and Tom was a school teacher, smart guy, made a nice living, but was hungry. Had young kids. His son wanted to be a pianist, a professional pianist. And long story short, it cost a lot of money, piano lessons. So long story short, we started to teach Tom the business. Tom was a hard worker. One thing led to another. Tom became one of our top earners in that particular company. When I came down here to Dallas, I met a guy who was a strength coach. He had been a strength coach at one of the universities here. Young guy, him, his new wife, and another roommate were living in one apartment, 3 adults in an apartment with a dog. No money. I started to teach them the business, and they had no money. So I said, here's what I want you to do. The girl was very aggressive, okay, in a good way. she said, what do I need to do? I said, you need to come to the office every morning and pick up product. We gave her product. Not for free. Like, we gave her product. She signed for it. It's like, we're giving it on consignment. I want you to go out, Tammy, and sell the product. You come back at the end of the day, you pay us for what you sold. Okay. And she did. We created a little, remember those little yellow sticky notes?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We created a thing that with a rubber stamp that basically said, okay, lose 10 pounds in 2 weeks. This was what a weight loss product. And she would go out and she would go to office buildings and she'd go into ladies' rooms and she'd stick these on the back of the bathroom doors. So I would go in to use the ladies' room, and what did she see? Lose 10 pounds in 2 weeks. And cell phones were invented at that point, so they called her cell phone, and she wound up selling product, and she became one of our top earners with that particular company. Okay, multi-millionaire, by the way, made millions and millions of dollars. This particular lady. Okay, that's another of our success stories. Okay, another girl in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Unfortunately, she's deceased now. A girl named Arlene. Arlene was the first female sales rep for Sony Corporation of America. Her grandfather had invented tear gas. Her dad was a doctor. Her mom and dad met at the Mayo Clinic, believe it or not. And anyway, very, very smart lady. Her son's my lawyer now, by the way. But anyway, Arlene, when I met her, was a single mom. Her son, who was 4, is now 40. But anyway, when I met Arlene, she was just hungry. She just wanted to make money. She wanted to work and make money. She had given up on the dream of, the guy on the white horse coming in and saving her and all. And so she was like, look, I'm done with all that. Been married, didn't work. I'm ready to make money. And she just worked like crazy. She became one of my top distributors in the particular company I was in then. And then she went off to another company, took the skills that she had acquired that I had taught her, and she became one of the top earners at another company. And unfortunately, she passed away 2 years ago. But yeah, had a tremendous, tremendous career. And her downline's still going on, by the way. Her son still gets that paycheck. It's about $30,000 a month. Not bad, right? Of what Yeah. So, those are a few stories. And then one of my favorite stories is in my current company. A guy that I introduced in Canada introduced another guy in Canada who had a friend that lived in Guadalajara. He had a friend who was a doctor who was in network marketing, kind of dabbled with it, made some money. The company he was in got in trouble, okay, and he decided that he wanted to leave, and he came with our company. Well, it turns out he had 27 brothers and sisters, including himself.
Oh, yeah.
And they started to build a downline literally all over the world, and now that downline alone is over 1 million, and I'm not exaggerating, it's over 1 million people just in that one downline out of that one connection. And you say, well, most people don't have 27 brothers and sisters. True. They all didn't get involved in the business. About 13 of them did, but by the time their kids and grandkids and everything else got involved, they built a huge business. And I could go on and on, but I've got so many stories.
What would you say? What qualities a person who has the potential to be successful would have?
Number one, be teachable.
Mm-hmm.
Now that sounds really easy, but a lot of people aren't.
Yeah.
Okay? It's be teachable. Okay. I had to be teachable in 1983. I had to learn these skills. Okay. And I had good mentors, frankly. Larry Thompson and Mark Hughes were two of the best, and eventually Jim Rohn. So, be willing to be taught, because I came into the industry, in the direct selling industry, which a lot of the leadership does not have a formal education. A lot of times they went to high school and that's it. They got in network marketing, or they got in something else and they eventually got network marketing. So where I started, I don't know if Jim Rohn ever went to college or not, but Mark Hughes and Larry Thompson, my two first mentors, did not.
Well, my question now is, if somebody got interested in what you were saying, wanted to be your, so to say, student, what is required from them? What's the investment in terms of their time and the money, or are there various levels of engagement?
Well, I mean, obviously, if you join a business with me, your starter fees, most of these companies are a couple of $100, as far as that, but it's really your time. Okay. That if I'm going to mentor you, I'll meet you where you are, but I can't do it for you. Okay. So it means if I say, hey, we're going to have a training call, that you show up. And if I say, hey, we're going to spend some time like you and I have just spent, here, for example, okay, that they show up, that they keep their commitment, because their commitment's not to me. Their commitment to themselves, right? Like, how committed are you to you and your family and your growth?
And what are those things when people come to you and what you will train them on? So to say, kind of like subjects, what would they be learning?
Well, there's a couple of major things. Okay, there's a lot of minor things that are particular to a particular brand or whatever, but the major things, if they're in any company, is number one, okay, that they have to learn how to discipline themselves. Business is discipline like athletics is discipline. Okay, you don't find an athlete out drinking in the middle of the night and the next day performing well. Well, guess what? You also don't find an entrepreneur doing that. Most entrepreneurs, early to bed, early to rise. Now, that might sound funny and cliche.
Amen to that. Amen to that.
I mean, most of us are up. There's an entrepreneur brain, and it wakes up at about 4 a.m. Okay, and it starts to think. Okay, get out of bed. Get out of bed early. Get ahead of the day. All right, I've worked with billionaires, okay, a couple of different billionaires, and I get texts from them 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning their time. I'm like, wow, how come these guys are up? I mean, they don't need to ever work. Why are they up? Because their brain's going, they're working already, right? So why should we that aren't billionaires, why should we not work at the same level? Okay, so get out of bed early. That's number one, is get your discipline right. Okay, number two, learn how to eliminate distractions. What are distractions? Distractions can be a lot of different things. Well, tonight's Monday, for example, when we're doing this interview. So a lot of people are football fans in the United States, right? You live in North Carolina, I live in Texas. Football's a big deal. Yeah. I couldn't even tell you who's playing tonight. I don't care. I have work to do.
Neither could I.
Yeah. I like football. I mean, I'll occasionally watch football. On Thanksgiving, I'll watch football. But at the end of the day, I don't care who's playing tonight. But there's guys out there who can't take care of themselves financially or their families or send their kids to good schools. But tonight they'll be watching football and drinking beer. Could they be using that time for something better? That's the kind of stuff that I do, is I kind of get into somebody's thought process. Now, once I get them there, then I teach them the basic fundamentals of how to build a distributorship.
Yeah, I see so much, especially on Dave Ramsey shows that I have sometimes that I have watched, that people call in their 50s, in their 60s, and they have no savings. They are in debt, and they really need to do something. That's, I don't know, what advice would you give to them? The same.
You know what? My advice to them would be the same thing that would be to a younger person. Just start. It's not too late. Okay, yes, you financially put yourself in a bad situation, but you can come out of it. Okay, and the best way to do that is self-employed. You're not going to do that at your job because you've already seen your job isn't going to get you there. And I didn't say quit your job.
Right.
What you do is you quit your job and you spend your part-time hours not watching football, not drinking beer with the boys at the bar, not doing stuff that's non-productive. You start to invest in yourself.
Right.
You find some little business that you can market, that you are passionate about it.
John, now, what would be your call to action, just to summarize all this, and what would be the one thing that maybe you want people to take away? If they remember one thing, what would that be?
I think the number one thing is that you too can do it. Okay, I mean, I've seen so many people from so many circumstances, okay, that are not advantageous that have achieved. So believe in yourself, okay? If you believe in God, which I do, okay, God doesn't make any junk. God made you to succeed. And that doesn't mean you're going to be the richest people in your neighborhood. It's not necessarily a wealth, financial wealth, but the success that you are entitled to. But you're the one that has to make that happen. Somebody can't make it for you. Well, if you're older, you know a lot of people, whether they're through your church, whether they're through other organizations you belong to, people that you worked with. You know all of these people. Why not put that list to work by finding something that you can be passionate about that maybe they can be passionate about? Okay. So don't give up because you're saying, well, my driver's license says that I'm this age or that age. Who cares? You know, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I love that message. I also, I like, I don't know if you know of Gabor Mate.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So he had his first book released when he was 55, and that's only when, you know, he became more known to the world, and now he's in his 80s, and yeah, that's how he started. So yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely, yeah.
Don't let a few gray hairs stop you. You know?
Yeah. Well, I'm camouflaging mine.
I'm just glad I still have the hair, you know.
True. Well, this was fascinating, a wonderful conversation. I think that we could talk for hours, but yeah, I will definitely put all the links on the show notes. And thank you so much once again for coming into my zone of awareness. It was, and I loved I loved your humility, because you really just shared your email. I think you did, or you just wrote from your Gmail email, and you were telling people, just come talk to me and we'll see if it works or not, if we're a good fit or not. But it's that's wonderful. Thank you, John.
Well, thank you.